Greetings. Welcome to Into the Light. My name is Donald Schmid, and the title for today's show is I Was Saved to Serve. Lots of times in life we go through unexpected things in our lives and we really don't understand why. But as life goes on, we discover that there's two things in life that drive us. One is love, and the other one is fear. And fear comes from the enemy, and love, I believe, comes from God. And there's a verse in John 10:10, and it states, "The thief does not come except to steal, kill, and destroy." Now Jesus is speaking and says, "I came that they may have life and have it more abundantly." So all these things happen in our lives. People are born, people get sick, people get married, people go to school, they graduate, they go to college, they build up a couple $100,000 in debt. They think they want to do their thing. They want a career because they don't have to work. But they really don't know that there's a purpose for everybody's life, and that purpose comes from God. He says, "I know the thoughts and plans I have for you, plans for hope and a future." And I never believed that. For me, life stunk. Nothing good ever happened. Depression ran in my family. Mental illness ran in my family. I had an uncle and a cousin who committed suicide. There was a generational curse in my family. And I believe that the enemy tried to discourage me and distort things and everything. And I was active in addiction for many years, and there was no way out. When I was 20 years old, I had a nervous breakdown. I wound up in Creedmoor Psychiatric. My mother was in the same hospital that I was in, on a different ward. My sister and my father would come visit us. First they'd go visit Mom, and then they'd come upstairs and visit me. That really wasn't a family who was happy, joyous, and free. We were caught up in depression. My mother's mother had arthritis and bad legs, and lots of people inherit money and everything, and cars and houses. And my family, you inherited ailments, and things that weren't good. I was born on June 7th, 1954 at 10 after 12 in the afternoon. And I came out, which was supposed to be a joyous occasion. I came out with the cord around my neck. I was a purple baby. And the doctors told my parents that I wasn't going to live. But God, in His infinite wisdom, had a plan, a purpose, and a passion for me. But I didn't know it. Grew up in Ozone Park. Started going to PS 100. We lived on Lefferts Boulevard and 107th Avenue, next to the firehouse, and there was a Carlos Pizzeria on the corner of Liberty Avenue, and they had the best pizza. You could smell it from like a mile away. And I always remember my father taking me to the circus. And we came home, we got pizza, and he took me to the bar in Manhattan. He worked in the flower district, and he'd put me up on a pool table. I was about 5, and I'd push the balls around and everything, And there was sawdust, and there was a shuffleboard table, and I was fascinated, and I really, really, really enjoyed spending time with my father. My sister was born like 5.5 years later. We had gotten a dog. His name was Blocky. I said I'd take care of him. he peed on the couch, so we got rid of Blackie. They asked me if I wanted a little brother or a little sister. I told them I didn't want a little brother or a little sister. I want Blackie back. And it's a good thing my sister didn't pee on the couch, because they probably would have got rid of her too. That's just a joke. So sometimes you need an icebreaker in life. You know, like God knows that lemonade, the lemon has to be crushed and everything, and you have to go through stuff. And in order to have lemonade, you have to have lemons. And I believe that this show is the lemonade that occurred as a result of all the misfortune and things that I had gone through early in life. And I had even sided with the enemy, because like when people tell you, you know, you'll never amount to anything, you really start to believe it, and you start saying it. You start saying it about yourself. And I remember there was a saying, it says, of all the things I've lost, I miss my mind the most. And I didn't even know I was talking derogatorily about myself. And in 1 Corinthians, the 2nd chapter, the 16th verse says, you know, when I received Jesus as my Lord and Savior back in 1995, it says we have the mind of Christ. You know, so we have His Word, we see His Word, we speak His Word, we see His Word, we speak His Word, we hear His Word, and it gets down into us. And I was always selfish and self-centered. I remember I was in 2nd grade in PS 108 with Mrs. Headley on 109th Avenue, and the racetrack was like right behind PS 108. And later I would go to John Adams High School, and there was a bowling alley to the right, and a racetrack to the left, and a school in the middle. And every time I heard, school was over. So I'm in 2nd grade, and it's speech class, and Mrs. Headley says, there's 6 people who have to go to speech class. And when she called the first 5 people, it was funny to me. But when I was the 6th, because I stuttered, it wasn't that funny anymore. So I went to speech class, and somewhere along the line, God gave me the ability to communicate with others. I was in John Adams High School. We had this English teacher, and she said, class, and it was might as well like she was like speaking to me. In order to have a conversation, you have to have a speaker and you have to have a listener. And lots of times people that want to one-up you and everything, and we're thinking about what we're going to say next, you know, and now I've learned to listen, and I've learned to speak less. And my life is a lot simpler because I don't have to be right. You know, I've learned to be content. I'm doing much better when it comes to that. I was in active addictions for many years. Drinking, gambling, pornography were the 3 major ones. Drinking, drugging, and gambling. And I didn't have time for a girlfriend because I had 3 mistresses. And when I did have a girlfriend, I had to figure out how to juggle the drinking, drugging, and gambling and the girlfriend. So I would take the girlfriend to the track or Atlantic City or the bar with the slot machines and the joker poker. And I went through this for a long, long time. And I had a friend And she could see that I was discontented. And she said, "Why don't you volunteer?" And pride wouldn't let me volunteer. You know, I was caught up in these addictions, and I believe my story will give you a bit of encouragement to know you're not alone, and someone else also went through what you're now going through. I took pills for many years. When I got out of the hospital, I was on Thorazine, like 2,200 milligrams of Thorazine a day. It was like 8 in the morning, 6 in the afternoon, and 8 at night. I was doing like the Thorazine shuffle, and my mouth was dry, and the food had no taste as a result of the medication. So I was supposed to go to an aftercare like 3 times a week, and it was called 7 Community Center, and they had a ping pong table, and I went, and I didn't want to go, and I started to get better, and I had been working in a bakery for a while, and I had gotten fired, which kind of led to the nervous breakdown, and I wanted to get the job back. And I kept on going down to the personnel office, and they told me no, no, no. So now it's like 4.5, 5 years. I think it's January 1979, and I'm working at the track, and I'm taking the ponies, the outrider horses, the guys with the red coats and the black hats. I was taking care of the ponies, and I would take them back to the barn. So this particular Saturday night, there was this horse, his name was Bimbo. And I went to get on, and the saddle slipped, my foot got stuck in the stirrup, and I got kicked in the head by a 1,100-pound horse called Bimbo. True story. Newsflash. Man kicked, dragged by 1,100-pound Bimbo, film at 11. That's a joke, too. So they took me to the emergency room at the track. They told me I had a concussion. I went home. It was about 10 to 8, and the phone rings. Who is it? It's the bakery. I waited all these years to get the job back, and they called me the night that I had the concussion from getting dragged and kicked by the horse. So I wanted the job, and I didn't want to say no because I wanted to work, because I hadn't worked for so long, because I couldn't work. I went to work in the bakery, and they gave me an orange bump cap, but it was a little late because I already had the bump. And I wound up working there for an extended period of time. Like I said, I was selfish and self-centered. Since then, God took my heart out, He put His heart in, and I found myself going on like Thanksgiving Day or Christmas Day to a soup kitchen. There was one that was called a rescue mission. It was on Lafayette Street, right off a canal, and they would serve Thanksgiving dinner, and I would go and I would assist with the placings and everything, and I really enjoyed, you know, helping the homeless. And I went there one day, and I was speaking to this guy, and he was really encouraged, and he gave his life to Jesus that day. And I don't know when, but God like kind of started talking to me, and I started listening. And in the beginning, it was a little odd because it was a hot day. It was the end of June. It was like 2006. And I was on a corner of Fulton and Broadway, which is now the transit center. And I was at Singular Phone, And I was there like an hour. And I heard a voice. It said, go to the Marriott. I went to the Marriott. I didn't want to go to the Marriott. And I was annoyed. And I said, which way? He says, go to the left. And there's a woman with a shopping cart overflowing with carpet, having a nervous breakdown. And she said a prayer for God to send someone, and God sent me. And I walked her home. I got her home safely. I told her I wasn't working. She wanted to bless me. I said, listen, God is my reward. He told me to do this. I'm doing this, but I won't steal your blessing. She gave me a $50 bill. It took like 16 or 18 minutes. And ever since then, I've been hearing God. So in 2017, I got to go to England. And I was in Chester, England, at Morningstar Europe, Morningstar School of Supernatural Ministry. And we learned a lot about compassion and prophecy and love and kindness. And we had book reports to do and everything. It was like a little school. We had 10 students. 8 of us were students. 2 were interns. And they were from all over the world. So they had this assignment, and it was called the Compassion Assignment. And we were to go to a nearby coffee shop and bless the people in the coffee shop, or go to a second-hand store and write a letter like Jesus loves you and give the letter to the proprietor. So I went with my newfound friends. One was from Westchester and the other one was from Switzerland. So we pulled our money together in the coffee shop, and we go up to the cashier and we said, we want to bless the people that come in with coffee or lunch or whatever they want. And they thought it was odd. So we had coffee, we were like on the side, and the people would come in and they were looking around for a camera because like they had never heard of this before. You know, it was strange, it was different. Why would anybody pay for their lunch or for their coffee or for their donut and coffee? You know, and we told them about Jesus. And there was one guy, he came in and then he left. And I said to my friend, I said, man, I wish I would have said something to him, you know, because we were talking about something else and we were watching what was going on with the people coming and going. And there was an OTB next door. And there were some guys that were drinking and they were losing all their money. So the cashier was very selective about who she blessed with our money. And we later thanked her for, you know, not giving it to the guys who were like getting rid of their money like really quick. So the money ran out and we collected more money and we went up and we blessed more people and we got to talk to more people. And then it was the end of the day and we said, let's bless the people in the coffee shop / bakery. And we did, and it was, you know, it was really good. I felt really good. And then we went to the consignment shop, the secondhand shop, and I gave 3 envelopes to bless people. And when God changed my heart, I went from being selfish and self-centered to being kind and generous and caring. And it was like night and day, you know, and God saved me when I was born because he knew I had to serve. And God saved me when I got kicked in the head by the horse and I went to work on my own stupidity that night because I wanted some money, I wanted some income, and I was feeling less than. And God saved me when I had the nervous breakdown and I was in the psych ward, you know, for like, I was in Elmhurst General for like a month, and then I was 7.5 months in Creedmoor Psychiatric on Winchester off of Union Turnpike. And then I got to serve, and I would serve at soup kitchens. And they would serve like 1,200 people on 28th Street. I forget, it was like Holy Apostles or something. And I got to go to the Macaulay Mission. And once a year, I get to do this thing called Don't Walk By. And it's in Manhattan. It's on every Saturday in the month of February. And there's like 3 or 4 different locations. And I get to give back to the community. You know, it was freely given to me. I freely receive, so I get to freely give. So now, England's almost over, and I had like 65 pounds left. And I don't know what to do with the money. And I'm at Manchester Airport, and I took a $20 bill, and I bought like coffee and a donut. The flight was a couple of hours later. We got there early. And I took a 20 pounds and I gave it to the guy, and I said, bless, you know, the next people that come. And they said, are you sure? I says, yeah, I'm sure. They said, do you want change? I says, no, I don't want any change. Just bless the people who come. And the money ran out, and I did it again. And they like looked at me like I was purple and had 14 heads and wings and flew. And they said, nobody's ever done this before. You know, when I had the money and I was blessing somebody, and you know who I wound up blessing? My flight crew back to Kennedy Airport. And they thanked me for my graciousness, and they said, we'll always remember you, and we're going to do it too. You know, so if you do something nice for somebody, and they do something nice for somebody else, you can change the world. You know, if you change a person, you can change a household. If you change a household, you can change a neighborhood. If you change a neighborhood, you can change the community. You can change the city. You can change the state. You can change the nation. And you can change the world. God changed me. He gave me his heart of compassion, mercy, grace, kindness, patience, you know. I love to volunteer. I love to help others. I want to do the next right thing. I always don't feel comfortable in front of the camera. Somebody once said to me, oh, you think you're... I take this very seriously. I have a message to convey that if God did it before, he'll do it once more. And if he brings you to it, he'll bring you through it. And you're going through stuff for a reason, and you're looking for a breakthrough. But there's no such thing as a drive-through breakthrough. You got to go through to get through. It's a process. And if you're sitting there and you're depressed and there's no way out, the email address is on the screen. donald.schmid54@gmail. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear how you're doing or what's going on. And I was walking down Richmond Avenue one day, and a guy comes up to me and he says, you don't know, I had never seen him before. He says, you don't know how much you helped me. I says, what do you mean? He said, I got a divorce. My wife wouldn't let me see my kids. I was in the basement. I wasn't coming out. I was there for a month. I'd come out to get milk or bread. And one night in desperation, I turned on the TV, and you were interviewing somebody on the TV on the show Into the Light. And that really perked up my spirit. He wound up coming to my church. He wound up coming to the men's breakfast. We have a men's breakfast at International Christian Center, 1501 Richmond Avenue, over by Chili's every Saturday morning between 8 and 10. And the guy that I was interviewing, when this guy came, the first two people he saw were me and the guy. and he knew he was in the right place. And since then, as a chaplain, he's ministered to between 800 and 1,000 men as a result of seeing that show. So I don't take credit for it, because God shows me where to go and God tells me what to say. You know, and you may have heard about Jesus and you heard about religion and everything. And if you don't know Jesus, you can just say, Jesus, come into my heart. I believed you died for me. I was a sinner. Thank you for taking my sins. I repent. Please come into my heart. I give you my life to do as you would with me. And you can find that in Romans 10, verses 9 and 10. He who confesses with his mouth and believes in his heart that Jesus is Lord shall be saved. And I got saved, and I got saved to serve. And it can happen to you. You know, things happen. We don't understand. We just don't understand. When I was born, my mother had a nervous breakdown. I thought it was my fault. I said, if I wasn't born, Mommy wouldn't be sick. And I was saddled with tremendous guilt for over 40 years. And I had to work it out with a therapist. And, you know, it wasn't fun, but it was necessary. I'm in my right mind today. I can put a sentence together. I know when to speak. I know when to listen. Just want to thank everybody for watching. Just take 5 minutes. Send that email out. You're not alone. You are loved. Jesus died so you could live. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Into the Light.